We're standing by for an important announcement from Rampage World Tour.
Well, crap. GameTrailers.com is officially dead. The entire staff was laid off and the site has laid dormant for weeks now. There is a bright side to all this. I am glad that Kyle Bossman and the rest of the guys found a different avenue in Patreon, and that their new platform Easy Allies is off to a great start. But still, Game Trailers was the first dedicated video game website I ever joined. It's the first community based on my favorite art form that I was an active part of. Before then, I had never even heard of franchises like Metal Gear and Mega Man. Before them, I didn't even know what a Sega Genesis was. And if I'm being honest, I'm pretty sure I nicked the format for my own game reviews from them. I always talk about the story first, then gameplay, then everything else, followed by a wrap-up, which is exactly how they did it. GT and the people behind it influenced me, so seeing it go is kinda sad. That's why I felt the need to make this list, just one final send-off to the website that, no hyperbole, helped shape who I am right now. The qualifications for this list are simple. We don't care if the trailer was a TV spot, an online-only thing, unreflective of the final product, or even for a game that never even came out. As long as it can be classified as a video made for promotional purposes by a game company, it counts. As for ranking, a trailer's job is to generate hype. That is its sole purpose in existence. They are essentially glorified commercials, so what makes one better than another comes down to one thing. How excited did it get me for the final product? Let's find out, because this is Team Pizza's Top 8 Video Game Trailers.
Number 8.
As we've seen with Mario and Nintendo, and Sony with Nathan Drake, when you've got a franchise that pretty much made your brand what it is, you go out of your way to give anything related to that franchise as much exposure as possible. So when Halo 3 came along claiming that it would finish the fight, you bet your ass Microsoft helped it go out with a bang. There are so many things that run through my mind when I watch the Halo 3 Believe trailer. My creative side is reminded of those old I Spy books that I used to read, and I mean that as a huge compliment. The composition and lighting in every single one of these shots is absolutely breathtaking, making this look and feel like the most badass toy set ever made. And yet, that somber piano in the background helps sell the war-torn tone of it all. It's a beautiful capture of just one moment in time in this universe, which leaves the obvious question: what could the full game possibly look like? A picture is worth 1,000 words, but this trailer only needed one to tell you everything you needed to know.
Number 7.
You want to talk about generating hype? I remember back when Dead Island was first announced and how absolutely everybody was talking about the trailer, about the unique way it was shot, about the story it told, about the music in the background, and how it was pretty much the saddest piano you will ever hear outside of a Kingdom Hearts game. But what really gets me about this one is the ending. If you haven't noticed by now, this entire trailer is shot backwards. You start at the end and then work your way back to when everybody was happy, leaving you off on that shot of everyone smiling and having fun when you know what their ultimate fate will be is downright crushing. Seeing this trailer again years later, it still chokes me up a little bit, which I think speaks volumes for it in an era where pretty much everyone is sick to death of zombies. Funnily enough, this trailer is nowhere near the tone of the final product. The sequel's promotional material was actually much more accurate in that sense, but if they're all this good, now I kinda want every game in the series to have a totally different hook in their trailers. Can you imagine a zombie detective noir? Make it happen, guys.
Number 6.
I grew up with the Nintendo 64, meaning certain names became inseparable parts of my childhood. Ocarina, Crystal Shards, 3 separate Mario parties, and of course, Banjo Kazooie. It wasn't enough that they had to tease a third game at the end of the second, they only made us wait nearly a decade for any kind of info on it too. And when that original trailer dropped in 2008, I was just as stoked as the next guy. You can't blame me for this one, okay? You just can't. The promises that were made here had any fan of this franchise practically frothing at the mouth. The possibilities for what this could have been with the power of next-gen hardware were so great, most of us couldn't properly process it. We wanted to believe. We all wanted to believe. There's a reason that Nuts and Bolts is remembered as one of the most disappointing games ever made. Honestly, is it a bad game? No. Is it a bad Banjo Kazooie game though? Yes. Especially when compared to its trailer, most definitely yes. Oh well, at least indie devs are picking up the slack these days, and maybe with Playtonic in business, we can finally get a taste of what this game should have looked like.
Number 5.
I tend to not be a fan of live-action trailers, or ones that are primarily pre-rendered, mostly because they can't communicate how the game they're representing is going to play, which, you know, is the most important bit of information. All they can do, as discussed in the previous 3 entries, is set a standard. It takes something really special to make up for that inherent disadvantage, and if what we've discussed so far hasn't been up to your standards yet, strap in, because this is about to get heavy. Last Light's Enter the Metro trailer can only be described as chilling. It's an unflinching look at the horrors of nuclear annihilation, of the fear, of the destruction, the aftermath, and most importantly, of the humanity caught up in the middle of it all. This is a trailer that actually did set an accurate tone, making you feel the weight of what had happened and just how much was lost, of letting you know exactly what kind of world you were about to step into and what to expect when you got there. And in my opinion, that's what makes it one of the greats. Even without gameplay to back it up, you walk away from this trailer knowing full well what it was trying to communicate to you, and it leaves you fully ready for more.
Number 4.
Admit it, you knew where I was going with this the instant you heard the music. But hold your horses, this isn't for Skyrim's announcement trailer with just the mural. I'm giving this spot to the official Skyrim trailer, the one that also has the Dovahkiin on a cliff yelling at dragons. In my opinion, this trailer does pretty much everything right. The narrator has a fantastic voice, and his lines are short, sweet, and to the point. It has powerful imagery that sticks in your mind almost as much as the chorus does. Hell, I think part of why this song became a meme in the first place is because of how well it was presented to fans in its initial showing. And those deep voices are an integral part to why I like this trailer so much. The build-up. Just look at how well this piece of media effortlessly eases you into this world. It grabs your attention early with strong yet controlled drums and a slow-paced shot, the flickering light only drawing your attention to the walls even more. As we move on, you slowly start to draw the connection between the stories in the mural and the stories happening right now, with the narrator only reaffirming in your mind what the situation is and who you should be rooting for. As things start to get bleaker, the music keeps getting more and more complex, with instrument after instrument drawing you closer to the edge of your seat. And by the time those 3 famous words are uttered by the Dragonborn himself, you are completely hooked. But are you really surprised? I mean, Bethesda specializes in RPGs. By now they are masters at knowing how to hook you on a world and its lore. And this is one of the finest examples of that fact.
Number 3.
This is one of the youngest entries on this list. It's barely even 2 years old, but I stand by the idea that the Battleborn reveal trailer is wonderful, simply because even before I knew what the game really was, based on this one piece of media, I knew I wanted to play it. You're gonna see this point pop up a lot in these last few entries, but I don't think they could have chosen a better piece of music to go with what's happening here. I can't play it in the background because I like keeping my ad revenue in my own pocket, but I'll provide a separate annotation for the curious. The build-up, the instrumentation, the near ethereal sound of it all, it matches damn near perfectly. It complements how the stakes keep raising as events unfold. It adds a layer of hope and desperation to these people stranded on the last living planet in the universe. And it seals the deal when that camera zooms out and reveals just how big and important this fight really is. By the time I was done watching this trailer, I understood exactly what was going on here, and I was with Gearbox 100% on this one. This thing blew me away when I first saw it, and it still blows me away today, even after I've taken part in both the closed and open betas. Trailers like this are the kind of thing I aspire to. They're works of art that inspire in me what I hope my creations will inspire in someone else someday. And a reminder of why I love video games as much as I do. Let's just hope the finished product is what it was promised to be this time, yeah?
Number 2.
Speaking of companies that know their RPGs, CD Projekt Red has earned itself a lot of goodwill over the past couple years. Not only are their offerings top-notch, but they recently reminded everyone how to do DLC correctly. Plus, they gave the AAA industry a harsh lesson in what games as a service actually means. But it's what they haven't done yet that's gotten many of us the most excited. Cyberpunk 2077's trailer takes the Halo 3 approach of using one moment in time to communicate what a world is all about and gives it fucking steroids. It's one thing to compose an original piece of music just for the trailer. It's another entirely to give that piece its own lyrics that directly relate to the tone of the game, while still making it catchy as hell to boot. I had the phrase personal responsibility playing again and again in my head days after I heard it the first time, and the song is so good that it's still rewarding me for repeat listens. I'd also be remiss not to mention how gorgeous everything looks. That image of a bullet turning to powder against an artificial woman's face is so striking that I'm pretty sure I've seen every major news site use it at some point or another. But what really makes this one is the story that it sets up. It leaves more questions than answers in the best possible way, and the implications as to why this killer robot is suddenly fighting for the good guys right at the end really does raise questions of personal responsibility. I want this. I want more of this. When it's done, I want every single part of the actual Cyberpunk 2077 game to be as good as this. And considering their track record lately, I think that's a reasonable expectation.
It's number 1.
You know what takes balls? Like a major league pair of cojones and some serious confidence in your product? Releasing your trailer for an unannounced game, and a sequel to a venerated franchise no less, a month before E3. And holy crap, if Fallout 4 is any indication on that front, Todd Howard's nads are the size of fricking bricks. Let's be real here, if Sony hadn't pulled Final Fantasy VII and Shenmue out of its ass, Bethesda would have won E3 in 2015. They just killed it on that stage, and it all started with this 3-minute masterpiece. The downside to doing lists like this is that you feel like you're repeating yourself after a while. So trust me when I say that this is everything that's made the rest of our entries good so far, and so much more. Does it have excellent build-up? Yes. Does it give us a detailed look at a brand new world? Yes. Does it have an excellent song that you'll be humming to yourself until the game comes out? Yupperoonies. And it managed to do all that while also giving us looks at fan dream features like the return of dog meat, customizable power armor, and even the ability to see what the world looked like before the apocalypse. Hype is something that's generally best avoided in this industry these days. Pre-orders can lead to unfortunate purchases far before you even understand if the game is going to be good or not. And when you've already set your own personal bar so high with excitement that you think this game is going to be the second coming of Jesus, the only direction you have to go is down. But if Bethesda keeps pumping out trailers like this, I'd say we can all safely afford to get just a little carried away. Arrivederci, GT. I'll miss you. But don't feel the need to say goodbye to me just yet. I've got plenty of other countdowns on this channel, like the top 8 video game art styles. I also have a weekly rant series where I discuss industry news and current events and use them as a kicking off point for more general discussions on the principles behind them and why they're important. For example, this week's discussion was on Quantum Break's stream-friendly options and other unsung aspects of game design that can make a world of difference. We also have a gameplay channel where we play just about anything that strikes our fancy. In fact, if the idea of us laughing our asses off at Senran Kagura for 20 minutes appeals to you, just click that annotation there to let the good times roll. Follow me on Facebook and Twitter to get way too immersed in my personal space, and as always, please consider subscribing so you can catch new countdowns like this one every single weekend. Until then, I'm Whatthefnu. Later, everybody!